Yeah, I always gotta do something stupid like that, don't I? I'm one of those type of people who can't start a stream without doing something stupid. Well, it's better than being like this, right? Oh, hey guys, what's up? I don't know. A lot of people do that. Hell, I used to do that. Anyway, everybody, welcome to another goddamn Q&A stream, live stream. Today I have a little bit of a surprise for you. And I may have or may not have a review. I haven't decided if I'm gonna do it or not. We'll see. Okay. So welcome, thanks for joining, and hope you enjoy today's stream. I don't see anybody here yet. As usual, there is a delay. A delay here. What's going on here? Also, let me know as always if the music is too loud or if you can barely hear it, or don't worry about it. Alright, so let me check on the settings right now to see if everything's alright. I put all the words together in the title, damn questions, damn answers. I don't know. I just don't want to call, I just never wanted to call these streams like Q&A part 1, Q&A episode 2, episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know, it would have been kind of boring. Maybe I will have to do that later for archive purposes. But, you know, I just think a stupid title is always better, catchier, and all that jazz. My books, all of them are in the description. The Revenant Army is officially, the English translation of it is officially a month old. So, yeah, I think it's exactly 1 month old, right? It was published on February 26th. Yeah, so there you go. Link in the description to all of my books, guys. Anyway, so, I don't see anybody in the chat right now. What's going on, people? Don't be shy. If you came here to insult me, do it. This is your one and only chance, because you know me. I don't read the comments. I'm not gonna read your comments. So if you want to say, Eric, you're a freaking asshole, how can you put this game on the list? Where is this game? You forgot this game, you fucking imbecile. This is your chance to do that in the chat. And also, this is your chance to donate. In fact, why don't you add an insult with your donation? Anyway, so I have a surprise for you guys, but I'm gonna wait, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to announce a surprise. I think it's already there in the title of this stream, but whatever. I'll explain a bit. So I'm gonna start with some questions, and when we get more people, I'll yeah, you know the drill. Roberto Scoots asks, which book do you think is a good one to start with? Thank you, Kiss. I think the best book you can start with is, if you're here for the JRPGs, like most people out there, and if you're a fan of the JRPG spectrum, maybe you are a fan of Suikoden and Fire Emblem, you can start with the Revenant Army or Terra Gaiden. Link in the description of this video. You can click them. You can click the links in there, and you can find the digital versions, the ebook versions, or the physical versions. You can buy them and collect them and add them to your fabulous collection. The Revenant Army and Terra Gaiden. Start with either. They're both $10, $9.99 US dollars. I don't know which country you're from. You're just gonna have to make the conversion. And there you go. If you want to start with something else, you can start with any of the other books. They're all standalone. Not a single one of my books is connected. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other. You can start with any of my books, and they're all different. You read something like Seven Shadows and then the Revenant Army, and it's like two completely different things. Barely anything in common. So I hope you buy the book. I hope you enjoy it. Most importantly. I don't do this for the money, you know. I wish I could say that, you know, I wish I could, but no. You know, to me, getting my story read by someone else is way more important than making money. I barely make any money out of my books. And Amazon keeps like 50% of, I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyway, am I playing Resident Evil 4? No, I'm not playing. I don't like that game, so I'm not gonna bother with the remake. Is 8 should I get or not? Yes, you definitely should get it. Hey man, did you play Seal All Infinite on PS2? Nope, I didn't. But oh man, you deleted the question. Well, the point is that I did know. I mean, someone told me it was it had been fan translated recently, so I don't know if I'm gonna play or not. The last time I tried to make a fan translated ROM on the PS2 on my PlayStation 2, it didn't work. I already bought Revenant Army ebook last week. Thanks, man. Hope you enjoy it. It's one of my very first books. Things have changed. If I were to write that book today, it will be kind of different. The writing will be different, the expressions, the dialogue, some things. You know, because when I was translating the book, I was like, oh, this is very different. This is me 9 years ago. 9 years ago, man. Jesus. But anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying the book. And I hope you enjoy until the end. Favorite console and handheld. My favorite console is the PlayStation 2. And my favorite handheld is probably the PSP. I would have gone for the PS Vita, but the truth is that I play the PS Vita. Most of my PS Vita experience has been with the PS TV, the one that you plug into your TV. So there you go. So, yeah, I mean, the PSP was the very first handheld console that I fell in love with it, like deeply. Previously, I have had, like, the Game Boy Advance, but no. PSP is the one that got me like, man, I really, really love it. So, PSP is my favorite. Have you ever played any MMOs? Yes, I have. I played Ragnarok Online a long time ago. Never quite got into it, and then I played Gaia Online, and I got really addicted to it. Well, I got into, how do you say this? Well, I was depressed. I got into depression when it was like 2011. Near the end, I was bankrupt, you know, and I was really depressed, and Gaia saved me, but also kind of like made me an addict to it. I got addicted to it, and I realized it just wasn't good, so I quit. And, you know, I don't want to tell you my life story, but let's just say that that was the last time I played an MMO RPG. Because that's when I realized, you know, these fucking games are dangerous, man. Dangerous to people like me. Have there been any games in the last 5 years that could come close to your top 10 of... Oh, that's an interesting question. I've been thinking about that too. Every now and then I think about that question, and I'm like, what are my 10 JRPGs of all time, right? This, and that. And I'm like, what about the games that have been released in the past 5, 6, 7 years or so? And to be completely honest, I don't know. You know, but I kind of want to put games like Ys 8 in there, or Ys 9. But I'm sorry. Damn. It's kind of hard, you know, because I've been playing JRPGs for a long time, and it's hard to remove one of my 10 favorites just to include or replace it with one of the modern ones. It's a good question, you know, but man, Jesus, I don't think so. I mean, some changes have been made since the last time I made top 10. I have never done it for my channel. I think I did it like 9 years ago, but I deleted the video because I wanted to make an updated version, which I never did, and I haven't done until ever since. And I'm like, see, all of my candidates for that list are not modern ones. I got some 3DS games, like, or DS 3DS, like Devil Survivor, Overclocked, fucking needs to be there. Nier, the original Nier, but that's on the PS3. So a 5-year-old JRPG on my top 10. Man, it's just I think for me to call something a true favorite, like I need a lot of time, many years to pass, maybe a couple of walkthroughs, not just 1, 2, 3 maybe, to really decide if I can make or include that particular game on my list. I mean, it's just, man, I don't know, man. Trails of Cold Steel 4 could be there. Ys 8 could be there. But I mean, which of my 10 favorites would I remove just to include those two, man? That's a really hard question. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Triangle Strategy, god damn it, yeah. But my answer is no. Right now my answer is no. There isn't a single 5-year-old JRPG on my 10 favorites. I don't think so. Like I said, I think I need more time. Because the 10 JRPGs in my list have been with me for a long time, you know, and I've played them multiple times already. Anyway, I shaved a lot today. In fact, I was gonna shave all of this, but I knew you guys were gonna be like, "Oh, you removed. What about the goatee? The goatee is gone." And I was like, in fact, I'm not wearing a cap today. It's my hair. That's my hair right now. It's a mess. I want Shin Megami Tensei Devil's Arrival remake for Switch. I don't think a remake will do it any good. Maybe just release it on the Switch and that's it. Port it to the Switch. A port. That's all it needs. The game is fucking perfect. Perfect. It doesn't need a remake or remaster or nothing. Just port it to the Switch. That's it. That's all we need. Has any game jumped out at you just from a screenshot? Interesting question. You mean like... I mean, I get it. Yeah, it's like you just watch a screenshot and it hooked you right in. Like, I want to play that. Is that what you're asking? That's happening with me with the East 10. All I've seen are screenshots, and I know I want to play it. Somebody donated. Thank you, codename Hendrix. Is that because of Jimi Hendrix? Always fun content. You don't play many Western RPGs like God of War, Horizon series, Bethesda series. So screw you. There's a stream I did a long time ago on Horizon Zero Dawn, and I liked it, but I never finished it. You're right. I should get back more into Western RPG. Some of my favorites are Dragon Age 1 and 2. No, not 1 and 3. The second one was kind of meh, but I never gave it a proper chance, a fair chance. So Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age Inquisition are some of my favorite Western RPGs of all time. Another one is Reckoning, Kingdoms of Amalur. God of War, I imagine you're talking about the reboot series. I'm not sure if they're RPGs or not because I haven't played them. The reboot one and Ragnarok. Horizon, the first one is pretty good. Should go back to it. Bethesda, I'm not really a fan, man. The Elder Scrolls, not a fan. I played Morrowind, I played Oblivion, I played Skyrim. Couldn't get into a single one of them. I'm no fan of the Elder Scrolls. And Mass Effect is not Bethesda, but I don't like Mass Effect. The gameplay, I thought the story looked really freaking interesting, but the gameplay mechanics is just not for me. Not my type of game. Third-person shooters. First-person shooters I don't like. Third-person shooters I'm extremely picky. But yeah. 78 people watching. I have a surprise for you guys today, but I kind of want to wait until there's 100 people watching. And then we'll do it. I mean, I'm kind of giving it away in the title of the stream right now. Anyway, we're gonna wait a little bit. Did you play Chained Echoes already? Nope. Rogue Galaxy needs a remake with a better ending. What's wrong with the ending? Well, anyway, we can't discuss that, no spoilers. But, I don't know... I wouldn't say a remake necessarily, just a remaster with rebalanced difficulty and a better map for navigation. That's it. What is the series you hope to come with new game? I'd like to see a brand new game for a lot of fucking series, man. Wow. Man, I want a Valkyria Chronicles, a new Valkyria Chronicles game. I want Valkyria Chronicles 5. That's my answer. You change your view on Skies of Arcadia? I think I respect the game, I like it now, but I haven't finished it, and I have no access to it whatsoever right now, unless I emulate Dreamcast. But I have a lot of backlog, and I kind of want to work on that first. I do want a Skies of Arcadia remaster. If that game were to be released on modern systems, that'll be bonkers, man. I will definitely play it again. Any chance of more Rage Quit videos? I don't think so, man, because every time I say fuck, YouTube immediately shadow bans the video, even if it's a good video. I don't know, man, so don't make me talk about this. I always rant about this, about the YouTube's hypocritical policies from nowadays. Anyway, so no, don't expect rage quit videos. I mean, it's just YouTube killed them, man. Have you ever what? Have you ever read Shadows of the Torturer? Nope. Dying Earth? Dying Earth, I haven't read it. I know the book. Is it really that good? Then I'll probably end up reading it one day. What is the best action RPG that needs a remake or port to the Switch? Someone was saying Rogue Galaxy. That'll be a great idea. Maybe some of the Star Ocean games or some of the Tales games. But you know what I'm gonna pick. I want remakes of the very first Tales games. Fantasia, Destiny, the real Destiny 2, Eternia, Rebirth. God damn it, Rebirth. So there you go. Do you like Baldur's Gate or Divinity Original Sins? I don't think I'm a fan of Baldur's Gate, even though I've only tried one. Divinity Original Sin, I got bored. I have one on the PlayStation 4, I think it's the first one. And I got bored, I played it, and I don't know. At the beginning it was really interesting, but as the story progressed... My problem with Western RPGs is that they're all very, very quest-driven and very open world. And I'm kind of more on the linear side of things. Like, I kind of want the game to tell me where to go and what to do. And let me decide how to do it, or when to do it, you know? Hey Erick, what do you think about Mato Anomalies? I haven't played it, and I haven't seen a lot of footage from it. To be completely honest, I don't really watch JRPG content on YouTube. All I do is watch some trailers for some upcoming games every now and then. And but I don't watch JRPG content. I watch it very, very rarely, and that's because this is what I do. So I kind of make videos, talk about JRPGs. So back then when we used to watch JRPG content, I was like, man, I just talked about that game, or this game I know it very well, and I'm like, man. So I kind of watch something completely different, like music channels, guitar channels, and all that jazz. Other types of genres, video games and all that jazz. So I don't really watch reviews either. So Mato Anomalies, I know it came out and I know nothing about it. Isn't that some kind of detective-inspired kind of game? Something like that? I don't know a lot about... I barely know anything about Mato Anomalies. Is it any good? Is it an RPG? It was great seeing the Guardian Hero sequel in your Hidden Gems video, but one is way better. Yeah, it is, but the point of that compilation was to compile a lot of games from my second channel and a few of this channel, and to kinda talk about something else, right? Not just JRPGs. It's okay every now and then for me to cover, you know, other genres. And I include a lot of JRPGs too in that compilation video that I very rarely talk about. Because I know I could have made a compilation of just JRPGs, but the majority are JRPGs that I've covered to death in this channel. I mean, imagine the compilation with games like Eternal Poison, Lost Dimension, Vandal Heart, and I mean the usual suspects. I mean, come on. So I thought it would be better to make a mix of JRPGs that I barely talk about and a lot of games from different genres. And I think it was fairly successful. It's a 55-minute long video, so of course it's gonna take a while to get a lot of views, but I'm hoping to make a part 2 one day. Have a lot more hidden gems, JRPGs, and other genres that I would love to include in that compilation. Anyway, so Guardian Heroes on the Game Boy Advance, yeah, it's a good game. I think the Sega Saturn game is much better, I agree with that. The Sega Saturn game is kind of popular. Well, I think there's only like 10 video games in the Sega Saturn that are popular, and the rest are hidden gems or underrated games. Do you plan to watch a Super Mario Brothers movie? No. I mean, if it's free, if it's gonna be free on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, I'll probably end up watching it at some point, but I'm not gonna go to the movies or the theaters to watch it. Forspoken got a lot of shit, huh? Haven't even played it. I just watched a trailer and a little bit of gameplay footage, and that's it. I don't know why I got a lot of shit. Thank you, Roberto. I've been playing Ys 8 and really enjoy the combat and the music, but the story so far has lacked. It takes a while. Wait until you get to Dana. A really strong story to keep me wanting to keep playing the game. Does it get good? Yes, it does, man. It does get very good. Just be patient. Yeah, at the beginning, the first several hours, you realize it's a good story. It has some decent stuff, some tragic moments in there. But you gotta get to Dana. Or you gotta get to that tragic moment that I don't want to talk about because it's a spoiler. But once you get there, you'll be hooked. And then once you get to Dana, man... yeah, the story is fantastic. It's not the best. I mean, the Ys series is not really known for having super amazing, deeply written stories. Not really. But 8 has one of the best stories in the series. My favorite story in the series is 9. I think it has the best story out there across the series. But 8 has a pretty solid story, but it takes a while. It does take a while. Hey, sir, what do you think? No need to call me sir, Audrey. What do you think about the Persona 5X spin-off game that will be released on mobile and PC? Well, you know me, I'm not really a fan of mobile games, and if it's exclusive for mobile and PC, I'm not interested. I need it on consoles, otherwise I just don't care. Reverie Hype. Yep, coming up in July, I think. Coming out in July. How are you doing, man? Thanks, I follow your videos on your top JRPGs, and I really consider most of your picks to play. Have you tried Hogwarts yet? Nope, not a fan of Harry Potter, so no. Almost 100 people, you guys ready for the surprise? In a bit, be patient. Just played Radiant Historia on the 3DS. Man, the story is really complex and dark, but I love it to death, me too. Huge fan here. I admire the developer because time travel is really the difficult subject to discuss, and it's also very difficult to write a very compelling and dark story based on it. It needs to make sense somehow. Yeah, genius game and genius story, Radiant Historian. Ys 9 also has the best music from what I've heard. At 9 is my favorite Ys game in the series, but I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I think I prefer 8 or the first one. The first two games, Ys 1 and 2, especially the rearrangements for the PSP version, that's my favorite Ys soundtrack of all time. Are you still in Guadalajara? Yes, but I'm all the way far south from downtown. Is there still that cultural flea market? I think there is, but the last time I went there was like 4 years ago, so I don't know. I think it's still there. I'm pretty sure it's still there. I don't think that flea market is ever gonna die. I don't know, man. I don't really live in Guadalajara. I live far south. Have you played the Legend of Heroes Dragon Slayer series? Yes, I have. I only played the one on the TurboGrafx 16, and I never finished it because it was such a massive grindfest. But it had amazing music and interface for a game of its time. It moved really quickly, fluid. Everything is so fast in that game. I mean, I think it's a great game for its time. I wish I could have played it when I was younger. Do you think Atlus make the best JRPGs right now or another company? Currently I don't have a favorite company. I mean, Square Enix is a good one, but because most of my favorite games nowadays from Square Enix are developed by somebody else, not by them. And then there's Atlus, and then there's Falcom. Man, so it's a really tough choice to decide. Where's my accent from? I'm Mexico. I'm from Mexico, so I guess I have a Mexican accent. I don't know. I've also been speaking English since I was like 11 years old. I sound much better in my videos. In my streams, I can't let go. To be completely honest, in my videos, I'm like, I fuck up a lot. I'm like, man, I'm not pronouncing this word correctly. And I still end up messing up, but, I try. I try to sound better in my videos than on my Q&As. 103 people watching. Did you play that Metal Slug Tactics? It hasn't been released yet, has it? Is it there yet? Anyway, do you do background research on things before you write a book? It depends on the book. I did a lot of fucking research for The Reaper's Thorn, because that's pretty much a historical book mixed with fiction. and fantasy elements, you know, but I did a lot of research. But I don't really research that much for certain books. For example, there was some research for the Revenant Army and Terra Gaiden because I didn't know how to properly explain certain things, or how this type of armor is called, or this or that, you know, stuff like that. But then there are other books that are like 100% me, coming straight from my head, like Nyx Inferno. There's no need for research, unless I'm trying to describe something technical. Like, Nyx was wearing this dress like this and that, and what is this fucking thing called? That's the research I do. Yeah, nothing comes even close to the Reaper's Thorn. That's by far the biggest amount of research I put in a book. There's a Redemption Reapers tactical RPG. Redemption Reapers, that sounds badass. Mate, you don't sound like Mexican. Well, thanks, I guess. Do you think NIS will decide to localize Kuro no Kiseki within the next decade? Oh, for sure. I think, you know, that's the reason why they decided, and I think it's a bit of a mistake, and I want to talk about that in a bit. Thank you, Interlocutor. They decided to release Trails from Zero last year, and then this year they went batshit crazy with 3 games. Trails to Asher, I think it was too soon, and I want to talk about that. And then we're coming up Trails into Reverie, and then coming up Nayuta at the end of the year. So I think it's safe to say Kuro no Kiseki will probably be localized next year. Maybe the first one. We'll see, right? But anyway, thank you, Interlocutor. I hope you enjoyed the book. I want to talk about Trails to Asher. I'm very disappointed in people. I'm disappointed in you guys. Nah, I'm just kidding. So there's a bit of a controversy. Not exactly a controversy, but something kind of weird going on. Trails from Zero, when it came out last year, I think it was in September, right? September, October. And it was I don't want to say it was a commercial success, but there was a lot of interest. I mean, there were a lot of reviews. A lot of reviews had a lot of views. There was a lot of interest in the game, and I like to believe it kind of succeeded. That people now know the game and they played it, and now everybody praised the game and so on. But then its sequel came out a couple of weeks ago, Trails to Asher, and it's not really a second game. It's pretty much part 2. It's the same game, the same graphic engine, same story, same characters, new characters, and the conflict continues. It is necessary to play Zero to understand Asher. But a lot of the usual YouTubers, or a lot of channels, including mine, we made our reviews of the game, and none of them stood out. I don't know why. My review was a bit of a failure, and I started at first I was like, okay, maybe I didn't do a good job, or maybe, you know, I don't know, people in my channel, my audience is not really that interested in that game. So I thought that's why the video had failed, but then I realized that I just typed Trails to Asher review on YouTube, and there were a lot of reviews, and none of them had a substantial amount of views, especially not as opposed to Trails from Zero. So I was like, man, I mean, what's going on? Poor Trails to Asher. It did great in the reviews. I think I praised the game. And I've seen before people praising the PSP original release from back then. So I think the problem is that, I mean, what happened right here, right? What happened with this game? Was it too soon to release it? Because Zero was released over 6 months ago. So isn't that enough time to people to play the first game and then jump into the sequel, or what's going on in there? Or is it the fact that people played Zero and most of them realized that they kinda need to play Trails in the Sky first? So did Falcom or NIS America or both, did they mess up? Did they realize, I don't want to say this was a mistake, but I really do believe they should have ported Trails in the Sky first. Because you go and play Zero and you get spoiled. You get big spoilers from Trails in the Sky. Big ones. And you're like, man, you're spoiling the prequel to me. And I said in my Trails from Zero review that I think it's indispensable to play Trails in the Sky first. But it's okay, you know, you can play Zero first and then, okay, so I'll go back and maybe Zero will make you play Trails in the Sky. The problem is that Trails in the Sky is only on Steam. It's on PSP, but nobody cares about that version anymore. Unless you have an emulator, because the physical version is freaking expensive and you can't get it digital anymore. So, unless you emulate, the best bet you have is to play the Steam version. But a lot of people want that game on the Switch and on the PS4. So why did they localize the remaster of the sequel first? So what about the first one? This is like what happened in Europe a long time ago. Bandai Namco released Xenosaga 2 without having localized Xenosaga 1 first. Man, what a fuck up. So right now it's kind of a similar situation, and that led me to believe there's barely any interest in Trails to Azure, because number one, it's a sequel of a game that most people haven't finished, or most people don't even want to play because they know they need to play Trails in the Sky first. So, man, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting this game to be a failure. A failure in terms of interest. The reviews are great. The ratings are high. This is an overly praised game, Trails to Azure. And everybody's gonna tell you it's better than Zero. And it kinda is. It is. Is the second game, is it the closure, the sequel, the last game in the Crossbell arc. Crossbell is the city where these two games take place in. So I think that was Falcom's, or I guess NIS America's biggest mistake. What do you guys think? Maybe they should have waited a little bit more. Should they have waited a little bit more to release Azure, or should they have released Trails in the Sky first? I mean, it's on Steam. If you go, and Steam is the best version of Trails in the Sky. I don't play on Steam, but I know it's the best version because it looks better and plays better from what I've seen. So if you guys play on Steam, then do that. All games are on Steam. Play Trails in the Sky 1, 2, 3, and then 0. So was it too soon? What do you guys think about this? I'm just disappointed and sad because I really wanted Trails to Azure to succeed. I mean, it's an amazing game, and combined with Zero, it's a freaking masterpiece, man, in my opinion. I mean, you've probably seen me recommending those two games a lot in this channel. So, I'm sad for NIS America, I'm sad for Falcom that this game was such a massive failure in sales and in interest. There's barely any interest out there in these games. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. That's where I am, and I bought all the Trails games for Switch on many people's recommendation, but I want to play them in order. You're gonna have to play Trails in the Sky first, and it's not on Switch on PS4. They should really just leave Zero and Azure and focus on future games. Okay. I'm honestly just avoiding all Trails videos, even just listening to songs makes the YouTube algorithm recommend spoilers. Wow, really? That's awful. Still need to play Trails of Cold Steel 4. Well, that's pretty much one of the last ones in the series. Before your video, I didn't even know these games existed. Yeah, that's another problem, you know, not a lot of people know those games. They aren't hidden gems. But they're more like not exactly mainstream yet. They aren't there yet. They're popular, but not as popular as Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Persona. I hope they port Zero Evolution and Azure Evolution to PC. Okay. Well, there aren't a lot of opinions. Let's just say that in conclusion, poor Trails to Azure, man. What a disappointment that most people didn't give a shit about it. But maybe that's why people didn't give a shit about it. Because they know they need to play Zero first. And then when they play Zero, they realize they need to play Sky first. So, anyway. I kind of knew this was coming, and I kind of knew this was going to happen, but I wasn't expecting the reviews, especially mine, of course, to fail. Helio Jr., thanks a bunch, man. Sometimes you think it's hard to have ideas for videos. How's your process? Yeah, it's not... To me, it isn't exactly hard to come up with ideas. It's much harder to decide when to work on those ideas, when to upload them. For example, sometimes I have like 3 top 10 that I really want to do, but it's not really convenient for these top 10 right now. Okay, the one that I want to do the most, I don't think it's a good idea to make it right now because of several different reasons. Because I don't think it's gonna do well in views right now. It's not the right time for it, or it includes games that I just covered in a previous video, or if I upload it, it may create a lot of competition for the previous video. Reasons like that. So coming up with the ideas is easy for me. I mean, it's just what I do, right? Probably the only good thing I'm at. The only thing that I'm good at. But it's just the decision making. That's a really hard part of my job. Previously, years ago, I didn't give a shit because I was barely making any money. I didn't care about things like the algorithm, and I have other sources of income. And now that I do this for a living, this is my job. This YouTube channel is my job. Then a few years ago, I started taking this very seriously, and I've noticed that sometimes when you upload videos at random, it's often a bad idea. You gotta plan things ahead. You gotta strategize a bit. When is it a good idea to upload this video, or how to make this video, or man, this video. Take the previous video for example. Just a random example. I don't know if you noticed, if you watched it. It's called 10 JRPGs I really wanted to like, and I think the perfect example of that video was Resonance of Fate. But I'm tired of talking about that game, and I just talked about it in a previous video, recent video. So it was just an honorable mention at the beginning of the video. So stuff like that. Like I come up with a list and I'm like, man, I really want to talk about this game, but I just talked about it. Or there's just no point talking about this game, or stuff like that. That's the really hard part of my job. That decision making, right? The logistics, the strategy, that's the hard part. But coming up with the ideas is not really that hard unless I have nothing. Unless all of the ideas right now are not good enough for that particular moment. That's when I say, oh man, I can't do any of these ideas, so what the hell am I gonna do? And that's when I need to come up with a new idea. And it can get pretty difficult sometimes. I think your review will have legs as people actually get to that point in the story. Oh yeah, maybe it will. But it's not just my review. Like I said, most reviews are failing. They didn't get a lot of views, which is kind of sad, because it only affects the game itself and the company. I mean, just imagine what's gonna happen. What's Nice of America gonna think? That it's just not worth it to localize them, or I don't know. It's not worth to put a lot of effort into the localization. I don't know. Can we get the intros and the song back, please? I need like 50,000 people to agree with you. If I can get 50,000 people to say the same thing, I promise I'll do that. But I mean, I want to. I like the intro. I like the song. I like sitting in front of a camera and saying, hey guys, what's up? And let's begin. But most people don't give a shit about that and skip that part. So, man, I wish I could get them back. But I don't think it's a good idea for my channel. Do you think we will ever get a sequel to Cosmic Star Heroine someday? I don't think so. Hopefully. I'm a big fan, and I think the game has been mildly successful. But I'm not sure, man. It doesn't really need a sequel, but I would love to get a sequel. I still hear the intro in my head every time. Oh man. I know a lot of you guys don't skip it, I know. But algorithm-wise, I gotta go with the majority right now. Maybe I'll experiment a little bit once again. I'm still appearing in my videos. In fact, I have a video coming up next Tuesday, and I'm there. I'm gonna be there in person. But yeah. Anyway, JW, he says, love your content. Here you go. Thanks a bunch, man. Intro themes and songs are dated. Oh, intro and theme songs are dated. How about a Scarlet Nexus sequel? I want a sequel. I included that game on my 10 JRPGs that needed a sequel. No, it wasn't there. But that they should become some kind of series. Yeah, I like that. Michael Scoggins. I hope I pronounced your last name right. Scoggins, or is it Scoggins? Do you think that JRPGs have shaped writing styles and how you develop your characters in your books? Okay. So that's the last question I'm gonna answer before we move to the video, to the topic. Um, JRPG JRPGs have shaped writing styles. Yes, I have, but that's always been the case. I mean, the JRPG writing, the types of stories and characters from the early 90s and late 80s, of course they're different nowadays. And they will continue shaping and changing and evolving, you know? It's only natural. I don't think that's a bad thing or a good thing, it's just something that happens, you know? People just can't continue creating the same style of story over and over again, you know? They need to change, they need shape to evolve. They will get better or worse, but that's gonna be people's opinions. A lot of people think writing nowadays is much better and superior to the one from the 90s. A lot of people think the other way around. So of course things have shaped, and it's only natural. It's a natural evolution of art, of any form of art. It takes shape, it continues, it evolves. And how do I develop my characters in my books? It's different from what most writers do. Me, I'm an improvisation guy. I plan a lot of things of what's gonna happen to my characters, but their development kind of grows with me, kind of grows in the moment of writing. Like I'm writing the dialogue of these characters, and then after I wrote the dialogue, I'm kind of like, okay, so this character's personality, this is where this character's at right now. It's hard to explain, but I like to progress with the characters themselves, like to mature with them, to grow up with them, and maybe reach to a point where they are different than what they were initially. So that's how I develop my characters. I don't really plan a lot of things and write things down, and I'm like, so Orion, from the protagonist of the Revenant Army, is gonna go through this phase, and then through this other phase, and then he's gonna do this, and then he's gonna change, and I'll accept his mistakes or something like that. I don't do that. You know, the moment I'm writing the story and his dialogue, that's when I start developing every single character. And if what I'm writing and the characters, well, if what I'm writing inspires me to make that character change or remain the same, you know, it depends on how they make me feel, on how I'm feeling. You know, I'm not feeling this character. Maybe this character should have the same personality the entire game and never mature and don't grow up, be a fucking badass or a jerk or whatever. I don't know. One character, for example, that has some interesting development is Alice from Seven Shadows. The problem with that book is that the story is told through different phases. The chronological order of the events is all messed up. That was made on purpose. But I kind of want to create the kind of development where she's a messed up character. I mean, her life has been ruined. And at the beginning, you read that book and the characters she's killing, they're like, man, did these characters really deserve to die? And why is she so fucking hateful and so full of hate? And then you get to the end of the book, and then you realize, okay, so if you put things in order and put things into perspective, then you realize, fuck, she's fucking crazy. I mean, people fucked her life up. But at the end, I don't want to spoil the book, but at the end, she kind of like gets that, she kind of recognizes that she's fucked up and that she's become evil, the evil she hated the most, right? So that's all I'm gonna say. But I think that's how I develop my characters. You know, I just let them fly in my imagination, and the moment I'm writing, it all happens in real time. So that's my best answer. Hope I share some insight. That's how I develop my characters. Anyway, guys, guess what? I have a huge surprise for you guys today. Guess what we're gonna do today? We are going to make a video together. I don't know if I'm gonna upload this on my main channel or my second channel, but it will definitely be turned into a video with gameplay footage. I'm not gonna show any gameplay footage today, but I'm gonna upload it. We're gonna make a video, goddammit. It's not a top 10. I kind of want to make a top 10, but top 10s are better written and edited and, you know, professionally done. The video idea that I have for today, I'm excited about this. I've been looking forward all week for this. So what I'm gonna do is grab an idea that I never actually turned into a video, and it's an idea that's been there for a while. But my problem with that idea is that I'm going to talk about games that I've covered to death, most of them, and I don't even know what to say about them anymore because I've praised them, I've explained them, you know the drill. So it's a video that I put on hold for a long time. Okay, it's been there, it's been sitting there, and I want to turn it into a video. I just never knew how to make it enjoyable and original. So I was like, you know, I need your help. I have my list. Okay, so we're gonna do today we're gonna do the most underrated JRPG in every console, except the Virtual Boy. Anyway, it's a joke. Yeah, no waifu tier list. You guys want to do that, huh? Maybe we'll do that one of these days. Maybe I'll make a tier list live and let you guys decide. We'll see how it goes today. This is the first time we're going to be doing this. Alright, so maybe the idea is not that excitable for you, but you'll be able to throw in a lot of JRPGs that you think are underrated. Okay, so we're going to do the most underrated JRPG of every console. So how is this gonna work? I have my list here. There you go, this is my list. You can't see it. So I'm gonna go by console. I'm gonna start with Nintendo, and I'm gonna share I'm not gonna explain the games. Most of these games, I've covered them to death. And I'm just gonna say the game, mention the game and why I think it's underrated, and then we'll get to you. You guys are gonna mention your picks for that particular console on the chat, and I'll read them. My hair's not perfect, man. JRPGs, okay? Stick to Japanese, even if it's racist. Stick to Japanese games, man. I know there's a lot of underrated indie games or Western RPGs, but let's stick to Japanese. Alright, everybody, so let's do this, shall we? I'm gonna start with the NES, and my NES pick is Crystalis. Why Crystalis, even though it's a brutally hard game that I have a love-hate relationship with? Well, as I don't know if you guys watched my clip from yesterday or my video from 2 days ago where I clearly said that I'm not really a big fan of NES JRPGs. I'm a fan of NES games. I grew up with the NES, but I didn't grow up with NES JRPGs, so most JRPGs on that system are kind of outdated. So my pick for this console, take it with a grain of salt. I never finished Crystalis, but I think it's a game that didn't get a lot of rates, that for a long time it was a hidden gem. Nowadays it's more popular, people know it. You just type NES RPGs on YouTube or Google and Crystalis is gonna pop up in the first places, right? But for a long time it was a hidden gem, an underappreciated game, an action RPG that was kind of cryptic, but nowadays with a walkthrough you can just get anywhere. So that's my pick for today, Crystalis. It's a brutally hard game, and it aged kind of decently, you know. It didn't age poorly like other JRPGs on the NES, especially some action RPGs. This one kind of aged decently. It didn't age marvelously, just decent enough. It can still be played and enjoyed today, I believe. But yeah, I don't think it's the best NES JRPG, but it's there. But what else is there, guys? I mean, we got the Final Fantasy games, Dragon Quest, and the others are pretty much obscure games like Legend of the Ghost Lion, something like that. Somebody just brought up the Faxanadu. Then there's what the hell, the Magic of Sherazade, Willow. You know, all those games are kind of obscure, and most of them are not that great, to be honest. So I kind of knew Faxanadu will be here. Someone will bring up Faxanadu, but I don't like that game, but I only played it once a long time ago, probably around 7 or 8 years ago, and I didn't like it. I was like, man, I can't believe this game is so bad. It's terrible. That's the one and only time I've played it, and I think I've only covered that game once in my entire YouTube career. I can't think of a single video where I covered that game, actually, Faxanadu. So I should go back to it. Maybe it'll improve my opinion, maybe it'll get worse, I don't know. It's a 2D side-scroller action, game, right? Anyway. That's my pick. Crystalis on the NES. What about you guys? Willow on the NES. Willow, I've never played Willow, but I watched Mike Matei you know, from Cinemassacre, well, ex-Cinemassacre, and he was rage quitting a lot. And there was a lot of annoying enemies in there, and I was like, man, this doesn't look like something that I want to play. But okay, Willow. We're talking about NES, guys. Ys is not on NES. You're gonna have to wait for the Master System or TurboGrafx for that. Okay, we're making a video right now, guys. For everybody who has recently joined, we're making a video live. The most underrated JRPG on every console. So Crystal is right. Who else? Any other before we move on? Well, Final Fantasy II never came out of Japan. That's another rule for this video. No only in Japan games. I mean, I've played some only in Japan games, right? But yeah, let's stick to JRPGs that got released in North America. Anyway, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on, guys, to the SNES. For the SNES, I have Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. It is a popular game, and some of you will be like, that's not really underrated. Well, it is. It is because it got some decent ratings back then, but barely any ratings. That's my problem with Lufia 2. That it just wasn't as popular. It's a game that had everything to be popular. To be on top. To be up there with Chrono Trigger. With Secret of Mana. With Super Mario RPG. Final Fantasy 2 and 3. Up there with the big ones, man. But for some reason it failed. It didn't fail in reviews. It got a lot of great reviews and ratings. But it was a commercial failure, you know. Copies were barely sold. And you know what? It's been a rare and expensive game, even just the cartridge, for a long time. When I started collecting video games, when it was like 10 years ago or so, probably a little bit more. I've been collecting for like 11 years now. And even back then, it was an expensive and rare game. And why is that? Because a lot of copies just weren't printed in North America. And for some reason, it just went under a lot of people's radars. So it was kind of an obscure game. Of course, the internet revived it, gave it more attention, took it out of the shadows, under the rock. And now it's a fairly well-known game, but a lot of people haven't played it. And they need to know that, at least in my opinion, it's on top of the great ones on the Super Nintendo. You know, it's a better game than Breath of Fire 1 and 2. It's a much better game than the first Lufia, of course. And it's a prequel. You can start with this game if you want to get into the series. So that will be my pick, guys. The most underrated JRPG on the Super Nintendo, Lufia 2 for me. What about you guys? Breath of Fire 1. I'm glad someone brought Breath of Fire 1 up, because even though it's a very popular game and people know it, it didn't get the best ratings. It's outdated. It didn't age very well, but I like it more than the second one. Terranigma, of course. I consider Terranigma, but I never finished it. So I was like, man, I gotta choose a game that I did finish. So Terranigma, that's a good one. Secret of Evermore is not a JRPG. It was developed in North America by Americans. So it's not a JRPG, and well, I respect that, but I don't like that game. Shadowrun is also a Western RPG. Earthbound is kind of overrated in my opinion. I respect the game. It's just very fucking popular. Yeah, I don't agree. Even if I was a fan of Earthbound, you know, I mean, it's a very popular game. I think it got a lot of great ratings. Terranigma. Yeah, I kind of I got the feeling Terranigma or anything from Quintet will be there. Someone will mention it. Illusion of Gaia. Illusion of Gaia is a forgotten game. It had great ratings back in the day. Nowadays, it just... nobody cares, nobody remembers it. Terranigma, yeah. Probably Terranigma will be the second biggest one. And for Japanese-only games, Thrashia, I mean the Fire Emblem games, of course. Bahamut Lagoon. But remember, guys, we're not doing Japanese exclusives. We're only talking about... we're only ranking... deciding the most underrated JRPG on every console, but released in North America. Not only in Japan games. But yeah. Great picks, guys. Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma... okay, not a JRPG, but Secret of Evermore, maybe. Anyway, moving on to the Nintendo 64. I'm not a fan of the 64, but for the Nintendo 64, I picked Ogre Battle 64. Why Ogre Battle? Because, my man, there's only like 4 JRPGs on the 64 released in North America. There's a couple more, but they're Western RPGs, like Hybrid Theory and Aidin Chronicles. That game's garbage. I mean, we've got Quest 64. It's a bad game. It's not a terrible game, but it's a mediocre game. We got Paper Mario, which is very popular and perhaps the most popular in the 64. And we got Mega Man Legends, which is kind of mediocre. I think the PS1 version is better. So what's there? Ogre Battle 64. It's not exactly a hidden gem. It's just as easy as to go to Google right now and type RPGs on the 64. Ogre Battle's gonna be there. It's a real-time strategy game. You build your campaign. You micromanage a lot of creatures and platoons, and you conquer lands or defend territories. And you send your troops out there, and then get into turn-based battles that are real-time, out of your direct control. It's a very fun game, and I really like it. I never finished it because I don't have a 64, but I used to play that game back on when I had a store. And I had an Xbox with a 64 emulator in there, and I used to play it. So I think it's a great game. And while I do think it got decent ratings. I don't think it's a game that people bring up. When they talk about JRPGs on the 64, they only think of Paper Mario, and that's it. They're like, oh man, 64 has no JRPGs. Well, it does. It barely has them, but it does, and Ogre Battle is one of them. So, which game would you pick? Mega Man Legends? Would you say Mega Man Legends on the 64 is underrated? I didn't like that version. I played the PS1 version and I liked it a little bit more. But there are others. Hexen, never heard of it. Is that a Japanese game? StarCraft 64. Come on, that's not even Japanese. I'm not related to Joel. I don't even know who Joel is. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to pick on the 64 except Ogre Battle. I mean, come on. Unless there's a fan out there of Quest 64, I think there's one there, Shadow Cat of the North. That's your pick, Quest 64. That's respectable. I don't think it's a terrible game, but I don't like it. Anyway, guys, so moving on. We're gonna move on to the GameCube. For the GameCube, I chose Baten Kaitos. Why Baten Kaitos, even though it's actually one of the most popular JRPGs on the GameCube? Well, precisely because that's not exactly true. GameCube is a little bit better on JRPGs than the 64, but when people think of JRPGs, they do not think of the GameCube. Okay, they're always saying that the GameCube had JRPGs. It had more than 20 JRPGs released in North America. In case you didn't know, half of them are kind of obscure and kind of lame. The other half is really freaking good. But most of the popular games are like Fire Emblem, right? Tales of Symphonia, Skies of Arcadia, the Mega Man X Command Mission, which is kind of unknown too, Phantasy Star Online 1 and 2. But what else? Can you actually make a top 10 GameCube JRPGs with just popular games? I don't think so. However, Baten Kaitos is one of those JRPGs that come up a lot in a lot of lists. The first reason is because there's barely any JRPGs on the GameCube, but there's Baten Kaitos, no matter what, it's always there. We did see prequel called Origins, came afterwards, and now we're getting the remasters of these games. So if the remasters are done properly, and people like them and rate them good, I'm guessing they will no longer be as underrated as they once were, but we need those remasters to work. We need people praising those remasters, influencers and reviewers praising those remasters, so now people are gonna buy them and play them, and then finally, at long last, after 20 freaking years, Baten Kaitos will no longer be an underrated game anymore. It will be just as popular as Fire Emblem, as Tales of Symphonia, as Skies of Arcadia, etc. So that's my pick for the GameCube, Baten Kaitos. Not as underrated as it once was back in the day. I think it's way more popular nowadays and more beloved. But what do you guys think? Baten Kaitos Origins, do you think Origins is more underrated than the first one, Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean? It could be. I think Origins sold less, and not a lot of people know it. People know the first game. They don't know there's a prequel called Origins. I don't think Eternal Darkness is an RPG. That's a survival horror game. Yu-Gi-Oh! False-Bound Kingdom. That's a good pick. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is popular, but a lot of people don't know. There are a couple of strategy RPGs on the PS2 and the GameCube, and that's a good one. I wasn't the biggest fan because I can't get into Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's a good pick. Crystal Chronicles, it's a very popular game, but it got a lot of trash because the gameplay mechanics weren't for everybody. It was such a weird game. I couldn't get into it. But Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, nice pick. Skies of Arcadia, I think it's just very popular. It's one of the most popular on the GameCube. I don't think it's underrated at all. I think the ratings of that game are very popular. I wouldn't call it underrated. I would actually dare to say it's kind of mainstream. That's just my opinion though. If that's your pick, totally respectable. Fire Emblem, again, it's one of the most popular JRPGs on the GameCube, and it got amazing ratings, and it is considered as one of the best in the series, so I disagree, but if that's your pick. Evolution Worlds, somebody's bringing a hidden gem up. Evolution Worlds, the problem is that it didn't get a lot of ratings, because it's very obscure. It's more of a hidden gem, but, you know, nice pick. The Mega Man RPG, Mega Man X Command Mission. That's the name. It also came out on the PS2. Fair enough, you know, that's a decent game. It's a good game. Mega Man X Command Mission got a lot of hate and shit. I don't think it deserves it. It's not one of the best JRPGs on the GameCube, but it is a decent game. It's enjoyable. Anyway, moving on to the Wii. Into the Wii, my original pick was Tales of Symphonia. But Tales of Symphonia, I think it's very... Instead of being underrated, I think it's overhated. A lot of people hate that game. And I don't think... I think it definitely didn't get the ratings it deserved, but most of the hate came from original Symphonia fans, so it's kind of a controversial game. Instead, I'm gonna pick another sequel, another direct sequel for my list, and my pick will be Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. It is not one of the most popular JRPGs on the Wii. It is overshadowed by games like Xenoblade Chronicles or The Last Story, or even other games. But the Wii has the same problem as the GameCube and the 64. There weren't a lot of JRPGs released for it. There were more in Japan, but we only got like 20-something, 25 I think. And saying half of them are kind of forgettable, mediocre, or bad. And the other half is pretty damn good. You know, I have my own personal top 10 Wii JRPGs, and all of those games in that video are pretty damn good, right? So Fire Emblem, it's usually up there. I think if you read a lot of lists online, you will easily find Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. I think it's usually there on the list, but because the only reason people put it there, not on the first places, the only reason people put it there is because, I mean, they only have like 20-something options, 20-something candidates to narrow it down to a top 10. So Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, yeah, you get the idea, right? So maybe it's not the best pick. I think Symphonia 2 is more underrated than Fire Emblem, but I think I'm gonna stick with Fire Emblem. It also got a lot of shit because they messed up the difficulty. They forgot to include an easy mode. So if you play the game, you're gonna meet the easy, you're gonna see the easy and the normal mode, and that's it. But they fucked up. It's actually normal and hard. So play that game on easy because you're actually playing the real normal mode, and if you play on normal, you're playing on hard. Remember that. That's my pick. What about you guys? Arc Rise Fantasia. I think it's more of a hidden gem, but nice pick. That's a really solid pick. Great game. Muramasa, definitely. I think Muramasa didn't get the attention it deserved. It got more attention on the Vita, and it found its true home on the PS Vita, definitely. But yeah, Muramasa. I thought about that one too. The Last Story is one of the most popular. I don't think it's underrated per se. Pandora's Tower, maybe. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I couldn't finish it because of the stupid motion controls. I can't stand that shit. But I think it's a fantastic game. If you like motion controls, and I mean, Pandora's Tower is definitely underrated. Spectros Origins, I'm not sure. I think it's a good action RPG, but it just gets old quickly. It's a good game, don't worry. I like it. I think it's the best Spectros Origins. But yeah, I think it's more of a hidden gem than anything. Alright, for the people who just joined in the past 20 minutes, we're making a video live that I will eventually upload to one of my YouTube channels with gameplay footage and all that stuff, edited of course. And we're doing this together. It's called the most underrated JRPG on every console. Moving on to the Wii U. Moving on to the Switch. Now seriously, the Wii U, I mean, damn guys, I mean, I think it's I think the 64 has more RPGs than the Wii U. The Wii U has Xenoblade Chronicles X, and it's probably the most popular in there. But, let's go with Xenoblade Chronicles X. I barely played it, but it's a better pick than that Paper Mario game that came out. I mean, the Paper Mario game is kind of, I didn't like it. And then there's a game that we're not gonna mention because I fucking hate it passionately, so definitely no. And then there's a bunch of Kemco RPGs. Should we mention them? The Revenant Saga is one of them, and Revenant Saga is actually one of the best Kemco RPGs I've played. So sure, why the hell not? I'm gonna pick Revenant Saga as the most underrated of them all. I mean, calling a Kemco RPG underrated is... it's kinda... But it's one of the best Kemco RPGs, Revenant Saga. So it's there, digital, and it's one of the first consoles where it was released. It later came on the PS3, 360 I think, and then PC, and then PS4, and whatever, PS Vita. But I think the Wii U was one of its first homes, if not the first console where the game was released. I think it's the first one. I could be wrong though, but Revenant Saga, turn-based RPG, pretty good story, it's a good game, it's a good time. So I think it's overlooked, and it should be considered as one of the best Kemco RPGs. Right, so that's my pick. I knew you guys will pick that fucking piece of garbage, but I respect that if that's your pick. But what else is there? I mean, yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles not really underrated, right? Moving on to the Switch. I have a weird pick for the Switch. So for the Switch, I picked the Diofield Chronicle. Even though I didn't play it on the Switch. I played it on the PS4. But on the PS4, I have another game. And if I wanted to include both games, because I think that Diofield Chronicle is severely, criminally underrated, I had to put it on another console. So it came out on Switch 2, it's there, and I've seen gameplay footage. I haven't played the game on the Switch, but I've seen gameplay footage on the Switch and it looks great. Obviously it looks better on PS4, but you cannot go wrong with the Switch, especially because it's not one of those games that require a lot of great graphics to run. I mean, the Diofield Chronicle is not a low-budget game, but it didn't get a lot of budget from Square Enix. It didn't get a lot of support. In case you guys don't know who developed this game, it's developed by Lancarce, a badass company. They made several great games. They made Sangi Zero on the Vita and PS4. They made Monarch. Monarch was a flop, but it's there. And they made another game we'll see today in this list. So the Diofield Chronicle, I think it's almost a masterpiece. It got almost everything right. It could have used a little more budget, more production values to expand the game a little bit more, to expand the gameplay mechanics, maybe to expand the story and the character development. In the end, I don't want to spoil the ending for you, but what's up with that ending? I mean, what happened to the other characters? What the hell, right? I think they ran out of budget at the end in terms of storytelling. And that was the game's biggest flaw, because everything else, in my opinion, is freaking perfect. I think it's an amazing game, but it did not get the ratings it deserved, in my opinion. Feel free to play the game and hate it if you want to, as long as it's your opinion. But in mine, I think it's an excellent game, fantastic game. It just didn't get the ratings it deserved. What about you guys? The Switch has a lot of JRPGs, so start shooting right now. Dragon Quest Builders? I haven't played it, but that's a game that doesn't get discussed very often, so okay. Triangle Strategy, well, it did get a lot of great ratings. If you go to Wikipedia right now, the game was a commercial success. It sold over 1 million copies, so I wouldn't call Triangle Strategy underrated, but it did get a lot of criticism because of its dialogue. So maybe, right? Maybe. The Langrisser remakes, definitely, but they're more on the hidden gem side. NIS America didn't do a lot of advertising for those games, but they did get they kind of like, they aren't that hidden, that obscure. That's what I'm trying to say. So Langrisser, I'm a die-hard fan of those two games, of those two remasters. So there you go. Monster Hunter Stories, definitely agree with that. It was a Capcom game, a Monster Hunter game. It came out, did a lot of noise, but then it eventually died and people forgot about it. That's a great game, Monster Hunter Stories 2. Neo: The World Ends With You, the sequel. I think the sequel is better than the original. Kill me for that and hate me if you want to, but I didn't even finish it. I wasn't the biggest fan of Neo: The World Ends With You, but I can see why. It has its fans. Persona 5 Strikers, it's very popular, got great reviews and great ratings. But maybe, I thought about that game. Especially the Switch version, I don't know why it got a lot of trash. Considering it's, it plays great on the Switch. Live Alive, the remake, solid choice. I don't think it was as popular as Square Enix expected it to be. So yeah, there you go. Trails of Cold Steel, the saga is, I mean, I think it's popular. It's not as popular as some of the mainstream titles, but it's very popular nowadays. I don't think it's as underrated as they once were on the PS3 back then. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, maybe. Oh, come on, Fire Emblem Three Houses was a commercial success, man. That's not underrated at all. If anything, it's overrated. I love it too, don't worry. Shining Resonance, let's move on. Okay, so that's so the Switch is the hybrid. It's gonna take us to the portable section of the video. All right, so moving on to the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. They're actually the same system, just the Game Boy Color had some exclusives to it. But anyway, moving on to Game Boy and Game Boy Color, I'm gonna rank them at the same time. I have a weird pick. It's called Gargoyle's Quest. It's arguably an RPG. I mean, you do visit towns and level up and talk to people. And then you go into the side-scrolling missions that are hard as hell. Because, of course, Gargoyle's Quest is a little bit... I mean, it's part of the Ghosts and Goblins franchise. So, of course, it had to be stupidly hard. But when it comes to Game Boy, original Game Boy RPGs, what else is there? The Final Fantasy Legend games 1, 2, and 3, which are actually saga games in disguise. Those are the most popular. The Pokemon games. Come on, what else is there? I mean, there's barely any JRPGs released in North America on the Game Boy. Game Boy Color had more, but the majority of them are kind of like ports of previous games. Like I think there's Crystalis in there, which we talked about in the NES segment. I think there's some Dragon Warrior games, and I don't know. I'm sticking with Gargoyle's Quest. I never finished the game. It's just stupidly hard, you know. The souls of the 8-bit and 16-bit era. But anyway, that's my pick. What about you guys? We're talking about Game Boy Color and Game Boy, the original. We're not there to Game Boy Advance, and I think Golden Sun is like really popular. I think it's kind of forgotten, I'll give you that. People don't talk about Golden Sun nowadays as they used to back in the day, but yeah. Lufia had a game on the Game Boy Color. It's called Lufia The Legend Returns. That's a great pick. That was gonna be my pick. In fact, man, I already picked Gargoyle's Quest, but for the Game Boy Color, my pick will be Lufia. Definitely. Thanks for bringing it up. There's Power Quest. It's an RPG, a fighting game RPG, but I think it's more of a hidden gem, and it's not that great. It gets very repetitive over time. Lufia. Roland's Curse. Those are little top-down view action RPGs. They're pretty good. They're pretty good, you know. Solid pick. Nobody knows there's Dragon Quest 3 on the Game Boy Color, so there you go. They were still being called Dragon Warrior. Super Robot, I think it's Japanese only. Summon Knight, same. We're talking about no only in Japan games, guys. Games that were released in North America. Alright. Okay, let's move on to the Game Boy Advance. My pick is the a certain remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it, of a game that nobody knows it's there. And that's Shining Force. People, of course, Shining Force, people know the Genesis game. Amazing game, legendary, influential, people know. It's not underrated, people fucking know it. But what about the Game Boy Advance port? And that's the one that I first played and finished. I loved it. A lot of people don't know it. And the reviews weren't that... I mean, it just didn't get the best ratings because they changed the art style a little bit, but it still looks beautiful and doesn't look deformed. It's just not. And it has some interface that... I mean, it's the Game Boy Advance. The Genesis runs better than the Game Boy Advance, actually, believe it or not. But there's nothing wrong with this port. It's called The Resurrection of the Shining Dragon on the Game Boy Advance. That's my pick, guys. Same old game with some new additions, some new characters. You know, I think it's the best version to play of Shining Force. That's just my opinion. But it's underrated because people just don't fucking know it. And they just didn't appreciate that remake or remaster. I think it's just a remaster with some new features. And... they're just sticking with their guns with the Genesis version. I respect that. Shining Soul, someone's saying. Shining Soul 1 is pretty bad. Shining Soul 2 is decent. I don't think I can agree, but if that's your pick, that's cool. Boktai is a good series, but I find it hard to see the RPG elements in those games, especially the first one. I played the first one and I was like, this doesn't feel like an RPG at all. The second one feels more like an action RPG, but the first one not really. But yeah, Boktai, I think, needs more love. The Bomberman RPG. It's arguably not an RPG, but I can see where you're going. I covered it recently in my compilation of Hidden Gems videos. Bomberman Tournament, right? Solid pick, I think it's a good game. The Super Robot Wars 1 and 2. I was gonna pick those two games. It was either those games or the Summon Night games. However, I think they're more hidden gems than anything. I don't think people know those games a lot. They're very, very obscure. So they're underrated because they didn't get ratings. They didn't get rated. How can you expect a game to get rated or to be underrated if nobody knows it? Or barely anyone knows it? But yeah, I mean, those were my original picks. I think Mega Man Battle Network, there's ought to be one in the series that is the most underrated. But I think it's a fairly popular series. Someone saying Lunar Legend. I think it's one of the worst versions of Lunar, because there's several of them, but I still think it's an enjoyable version. Look, Tai 1 and 2, Sword of Mana, that's the first Seiken Densetsu, right? That's the first remake, got two remakes, the second remake was on the PS Vita. But yeah, the Sword of Mana didn't get a lot of attention, you're right. Rebel Star Tactics, I have never heard of it. But yeah, Summon Night 1 and 2, Swordcraft Story 1 and 2, especially the first one, and Super Robot Wars Original Generation. Those will be my picks, if not for Shining Force. Moving on to the Nintendo DS. On the Nintendo DS, I picked Suikoden Tear Cries. Why? Because I'm a Suikoden diehard fan. It was either that game or Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. But Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon got a lot of trash because of the sprite design. I mean, the art style is beautiful, it's pretty, it's not very appealing, but it's great. But the arts, the pixels, I mean, they look ugly. But I'm sticking my guns with Suikoden Tear Cries because I think it's less popular. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn enjoyed a lot of popularity. Shadow Dragon, I mean. And Suikoden Tear Cries, that's a very overlooked game, didn't get the best ratings. Sure, it's not one of the best Suikoden games, it's a spin-off. There are no war battles, no duels, it's just your regular turn-based system with 4 party members only. But you know what, if you can put the differences aside, you gotta understand it's a spin-off. Konami was trying to do something different, and I think it's a fantastic game. It's no masterpiece, but I think it's a really good game that gets overshadowed by the big ones like the Final Fantasy ports, like all Square Enix games released on the Nintendo DS, all Atlus games, all the Shin Megami Tensei games, there's a lot, Radiant Historia, games like that usually get all the praise. Suikoden Tear Cries doesn't get a lot of praise, and I think it deserves more. What about you guys? Drone Tactics. Well, that's a really, really stupidly obscure game. I don't see why a game that obscure is underrated, but I respect that it's a solid strategy RPG. Nights in the Nightmare, are you kidding me, man? I hate that game. Some of the Etrian Odyssey games, I'm not a fan of any of them, but yeah. Radiant Historia is a very popular, I think it's one of the most popular Nintendo DS RPGs. Sola to Robo, I agree. That's a very underrated game, and it's not that obscure, especially not since it's overly expensive nowadays. Anyway, World Destruction, you're probably referring to Sands of Destruction. Sands of Destruction, definitely. The Inazuma 11 games, maybe, but those never came out to North America. All of them stayed in Europe. And I'm not really a fan of sports games. I know it's a soccer RPG, but I wasn't a big fan. Sands of Destruction is definitely underrated. Definitely, I agree with that. The World Ends With You got a lot of popularity. I think it's one of the most popular JRPGs on the Nintendo DS, so I don't see that as underrated. But anyway, Glory of Heracles, another very obscure game. But yeah, I can see why. I don't think it's that underrated. It does have some problems, in my opinion. But yeah, I respect that. Okay, so those are your picks. Let's move on. Moving on to the 3DS. For the 3DS, I chose 2 games that are more popular than they were before, and those are Project Cross Zone 1 and 2, the massive crossovers that you guys have seen me praising over and over again. I freaking love them with a passion. Massive crossovers from characters from Sega, from Nintendo, from Bandai Namco, from a lot of companies. Capcom is there, man, and I think they're fantastic games. The reason why they didn't get the best ratings or not a lot of popularity or not a lot of mainstream attention is because 1, they're crossovers, and 2, they're strategy RPGs. And they are the type of strategy RPGs where missions are stupidly long. I mean, you play one mission and 1 hour later you finally finished it. There are missions that are like 2 hours long. So yeah, I get it, the games are not for everybody, but man, they're so good and they're balanced. They aren't that hard, they aren't easy, they're balanced. I think everybody can get into them, especially if you're a fan of Capcom characters or Konami characters, or I mean Konami, Namco, Sega, you know, I mean, yeah. So those are my picks. I was gonna go with Soul Hackers, but I think Shin Megami Tensei is very popular nowadays, finally. So no, I'm sticking my gun with those games. What about you guys? Shin Megami Tensei 4, come on man, that's one of the most popular, especially nowadays. Shin Megami Tensei 4 used to be one of those games a lot of people didn't praise, and it was kind of underrated back then, but nowadays the tables have been turned. Influencers and YouTubers and reviewers love the heck out of that game. I strongly disagree. Persona Q1 and 2, yeah, I like them. I finished the first one. I wasn't the biggest fan of both, because dungeon crawlers in first person aren't my forte, but yeah. Magical Star Sign, that's on the DS. Pokemon Rangers, never play them. Aren't those the roguelike games? But maybe, yeah. Seven Dragon, I think it's very obscure. A lot of people don't know that game because it's the only one of that series that came out to North America. Strange Journey might be the most underrated Shin Megami Tensei game ever, but it's still a Shin Megami Tensei game. I think they're just not as popular as I would like them to be, but they are. Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Apocalypse, like I said, guys, you know, if that's your pick, I respect that, but there's no way I could ever call those games underrated. Those are the most popular JRPGs on the 3DS. Atlus and Square Enix they governed the 3DS with their releases. Dragon Quest, I mean, come on. Though Moko Moko Friends, no fucking way. Yeah, come on, guys. I mean, don't say anything from Atlus or Square Enix. Man, they're very popular games. That's just my opinion. If Dragon Quest 8 is your pick, totally respectable. Stella Glow, maybe. It's more of a hidden gem to me, but yeah. I will definitely call it underrated. I'm sticking with my guns with Project Cross On because they're kind of known. Not as popular as I would like them to be, but they're known. And that's it. Now, Revenant Wings, that's on the DS, and it's not a good game in my opinion. Moving on to, that's it. We're done with Nintendo, so we're gonna start with PlayStation now. And for the PlayStation 1, remember that series I did called Criminally Underrated? I cover all PlayStation consoles and the Super Nintendo. So my pick for my number 1 on the most criminally underrated JRPG on the PlayStation 1 is Vandal Hearts. And I'm sticking to my guns. I fucking love that game. I didn't get the attention it deserved, didn't get the ratings. People said it was too short, that the art style was kind of ugly. I don't know, I mean, that game is freaking phenomenal. Sure, it should have been a little bit longer, but we're talking about a game from 1996 or 7, I think. Come on. All JRPGs back then were like 20 hours long and that's it. And the art style, what? You can't play a game without your super overly cute anime waifus? I mean, come on. I mean, there's a really sexy archer in that game, right? She's sexy as fuck. Anyway, I mean, definitely Vandal Hearts for me. What about you guys? Xenogears? Come on. Grandia, those are the most popular, man. Legend of Dragoon? Come on, guys. Those games have amazing ratings. Thousand Arms? Could be. Wild Arms is popular, but it's not as popular as it should be, right? Yeah, that's a good pick. Kudelka, I don't like it, but that's a decent pick. Jade Cocoon might be too obscure for an underrated turn, but yeah, I can see why. I can see where you're coming from. Breath of Fire 4. Well, I'll give you this. Breath of Fire 4 is very popular, but it's not as popular as 3, right? So, yeah. Threads of Fate? I couldn't get into it, and I tried that game twice. That game definitely needs some kind of remaster, or I don't know. I just couldn't get into Threads of Fate. But yeah, I can see why, if that's your pick. Musashi, of Cartia. Thanks, my man. Cartia was my second pick. If it wasn't gonna be Vandal Hearts, it will definitely have been Cartia. Alondra is a game that just doesn't get a lot of attention. Alondra. The second one was kind of lame, But the first one is definitely a very interesting game. Legend of Legaia, of course. I think it's a forgotten game. It used to be very popular back in the day. Nowadays, people have forgot about it. But yeah, anyway, solid picks. All of them. Brigandine, I need to get back to that game one of these days because I'm a fan of the second one a lot. Moving on to the PlayStation 2, I picked .hack GU, the trilogy. Why? You're probably wondering, isn't that very popular? It was very popular. Hack GU is the same as Legend of Legaia. Got a lot of attention back then, great reviews and great ratings, but eventually people stopped giving a shit about it, people forgot about it, and nowadays not even its remasters on PS4 and Switch helped it a lot. I thought the remasters would help the trilogy sell a lot more and become mainstream once again, return to its glory, and it just didn't. So yeah, Hack GU will be my pick for me. I mean, it's not the best pick, I know, because it's a popular game, but it's just not as popular as I think it should have been. What about you guys? PlayStation 2, Legaia 2. Okay, I didn't like it, but I never gave it a proper chance. Shadow Hearts are way too often in underrated lists. I don't think they're underrated anymore. But yeah, definitely. Shadow Hearts 1 and 2 were my original picks, but I just had to go with .hack. I need .hack to get more attention, man. We need .hack to get more attention, so Bandai Namco can remaster the original 4 games. But yeah, Shadow Hearts are probably my true picks. Let's keep that between you and me. The Bouncer is not an RPG, it's a beat 'em up by Tetsuya Nomura. Wizardry, Tales of the Forsaken Land. That's just very obscure. But I can see why. Digital Devil Saga. We're listening to music from Shin Megami Tensei, but anyway. Digital Devil Saga, maybe, they're kind of underrated. Radiata Stories, my man, bravo. Give this guy a medal. Radiata Stories, that's the true most underrated JRPG on the PlayStation 2. I'm sticking to .hack GU, that's my pick. But, man, Tales of Legendia. Great pick, man, I agree. E6. Rogue Galaxy is kind of popular, but yeah, kinda. Come on, who said Tales of the Abyss? That's one of the most popular on the PlayStation 2, man. Grandia 3, definitely underrated. Kingdom Hearts 2 is kind of overrated. That's my favorite Kingdom Hearts game, by the way, but it's very overrated. Yeah, great picks, guys. Suikoden 5 and Wild Arms 3, oh my god. That's it, let's move on. I think the PlayStation 2 is home to the underrated mother of JRPGs. Alright, so PlayStation 3, my pick is Eternal Sonata. I think it was praised, people praised it, people like it, but a lot of people also hate it. People can't get into it, it's difficult. I finished both versions, this version and 360 version. The PS3 version is the definitive version and it's harder. It's definitely harder, but I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's a freaking masterpiece, and it just doesn't get discussed as often, it doesn't get covered that much. And it's a game that back then a lot of people overlooked. Nowadays it's more popular, but back then people just didn't give a shit about it. And it was eventually overlooked by the Tales games, even the Trails games, Persona, and all that, and all those JRPGs, the Final Fantasy games, you know. But man, Eternal Sonata eventually died out and became a forgotten game. Man, that's so unfair. I think it's just such a beautiful game. That's my pick. What about you guys? Tales of Grace SF. It definitely deserves more attention. It doesn't get a lot of attention because it was originally released on the Wii. And when it was ported to the PS3, Bandai Namco didn't do a lot of advertisement. They focused way more on Tales of Exilia 1 and 2 and Tales of Cestiria. To them, it was just a port, not worth a lot of money and budget into advertisement. Grace SF, definitely. The Dusk Trilogy. Yeah, you wanna know why the Atelier Dusk Trilogy? Because back then it was popular, but nowadays people refer to them as the old, outdated ones that nobody cares about. You don't see those 3 games often in the best Atelier games, right? And it's such a shame. They're pretty solid games, so I agree. Come on, Valkyria Chronicles, man. That's an extremely popular game on the PS3. And, man, it is considered as one of the best video games of its generation. How is that underrated? I'm a diehard fan. Abawaku, thanks, man. Thanks for the donation. For those who recently joined, we're making a live video that I will upload on my main or second channel, I haven't decided. It's called the most underrated JRPG on every console. And we're getting there. Someone saying Nier a Lost Dimension, I totally agree. Definitely. I'm staying with Eternal Sonata over Nier, even though I like Nier more. Let me tell you why. Because Nier has gotten more popular and it's gotten more respect. And nowadays it's kind of mainstream, especially thanks to Replicant. So people know it, people respect it, right? I think it's finally getting there, you know, on the mainstream spot it deserves. Lost Dimension, I got it on the Vita. Spoiler alert. Trinity Souls of Zeal, I think it's very, very obscure. Did someone say Demon Souls? Come on. A Souls game? Drakengard 3? Artonelico 3 didn't get the ratings it deserved. People were too harsh on it because it changed from turn-based to action. But it is precisely because it changed turn-based to action that I love the freaking game and I think it's underrated. But not as underrated as other picks, for example. And Enchanted Arms. The Witch and the Hundred Knight. Those are very obscure games. Arno Surge. Arno Surge is definitely underrated. People should have gotten past Artonelico 3 and focused on Arno Surge. That's a fantastic game. Definitely underrated. Anyway, moving on to the PlayStation 4. Okay, so my pick was the Diofield Chronicle, but I put that on the Switch. So I'm staying with Soul Hackers 2. Definitely. Soul Hackers 2, and that's a game that if you're a fan of that game, you'll agree with me, it got a lot of hate. It did not deserve the hatred it got, and that's supposed to be a mainstream RPG. Why is it underrated? Why is it so underrated? But because people know it, and most people just gave it a bad rating or a mediocre rating. I mean, come on guys. It's not a masterpiece. Like Soul Hackers 2 fucking must play it, no. But it's a great game, man. And I just think it got a lot of undeserved hate. That's the only reason, man. That's my pick. That's why I picked a popular game over a hidden gem. What about you guys? Someone said Sakura Wars. Definitely underrated. It should have gotten more attention. That was the whole point. But again, it's a series that was a strategy RPG series. And now it went into action, into hack and slash. So they did the Final Fantasy trick. I love Sakura Wars on the PS4. Amazing game. Definitely underrated. But it changed battle mechanics. Persona 5 Royal. The most underrated. Isn't that the most popular on the PS4? Come on, guys. Be serious. Get serious. Scarlet Nexus is kind of underrated. It did sell a lot, and it did get a lot of great ratings, but I see some underrated potential in there. Just not enough. Cold Steel 3 and 4, maybe I think they're more popular than Scarlet Nexus nowadays, so I wouldn't call them underrated. They got a lot of fantastic ratings. They're very beloved. God Eater 3, someone said God Eater 3. I agree, you know, it's no masterpiece, but it's just as good as Soul Hackers 2, actually. And people were kind of harsh on it at first. The series is now kind of dead, where it kind of evolved into Code Vein. But anyway, Code Vein is another underrated game. It got a lot of fucking hate and a lot of undeserved ratings. Bad ratings, I mean. And Code Vein is also very underrated. I almost picked Code Vein over Soul Hackers 2, but the difference is that Code Vein sold 2 million copies, man, and it got positive reviews by most people, by a lot of people. It was just Souls fans hating on it. But Soul Hackers, I think it's way more underrated. Star Ocean 5, I don't think so. I think it's the worst Star Ocean, but it's not a bad game, in my opinion. That's it, guys. Moving on to the PSP, I picked, in my original video, I picked Jeanne d'Arc. Of course, I could have picked Trails in the Sky, but both games are very well rated nowadays, but just not rated by many people. So I think Jeanne d'Arc is a game that it's gotten a lot of respect nowadays. It probably shouldn't be there in this video, but I think it's a game that still a lot of people don't know, a lot of people haven't played, and it just didn't get enough ratings. It got great ratings, but not enough. That's my argument. Jeanne d'Arc. It's an exclusive on the PSP, that's also its downfall. I think this game could benefit greatly from a modern remaster, just like Trails in the Sky. But Trails in the Sky, I didn't pick I picked Jeanne d'Arc over Trails in the Sky because Sky is a popular series nowadays. I think it's still underrated because not a lot of people play it, but because they can't. We talked about this earlier today, but my point is that Trails is more popular than Jeanne d'Arc. So I'm sticking with my guns. I'm sticking to my guns with this game. Jeanne d'Arc, the most underrated JRPG on the PSP in my opinion. No PS5. I don't have a PS5. What's an underrated JRPG on the PS5 for you guys? I can't talk about that console because I don't have it, so I excluded that console out of my list. I'm also excluding Xbox Series X. Someone saying Hexy's Force, good pick. Valkyria Chronicles 3, but that's an only in Japan game. We said no only in Japan games for this video, but I agree. Is the Odin Felgana, very underrated, coming soon. The remaster is coming soon, I think. Valkyria Chronicles 2, maybe? Yeah, Fate Extra definitely. Fate Extra is probably my real number one, but I think it's more obscure and I just think it's not a game for everybody. But I like Fate Extra way more than Jeanne d'Arc. I know someone else is saying Valkyria Chronicles 2. Gurumin. Growlancer. You mean Wayfarer of Time? I agree. It's more obscure than underrated, but yeah, I agree. I would have picked Growlancer over Jeanne d'Arc. Anyway, moving on to the PS Vita. The PS Vita, we got Lost Dimension. That's my pick. Lost Dimension, I don't think it got the ratings it deserved. It's no masterpiece. It's not a game that everybody's gonna go crazy for it. But I think it's got really unique and original ideas. I think it's a really solid game, and I just think it should have been more popular. The idea of that game was not to make it as look at the game, look at the graphics, look at the battle mechanics, look at everything in this game. It's not really a mainstream. It was never Lancarce's or Atlus's intention to make this game a mainstream RPG, but I just think it could have got more attention, and it shouldn't. My point is that it shouldn't be a hidden gem, because it's also a hidden gem. Most people don't know this game. It's also on PS3, by the way, and on Steam. Oh yeah, on Steam. But it just didn't get enough ratings, and the very few ratings it got, most of them are kind of mediocre or mixed, and I don't know, I think it's a fantastic game. What about you guys? Valkyria Revolution, it got a digital only release. Maybe that's the reason why a lot of people don't know Revolution is on the PS Vita. God Eater 2, solid pick. Tales of Hearts. Tales of Hearts I think is one of the most popular, but it's not one of the most popular Tales games, is it? So I'll give you that. Freedom Wars, it did not get the attention it deserved. Definitely underrated. Cold Steel 2 was underrated back then, but nowadays it's just very popular. Dragon's Crown sold over 1 million copies and it was universally praised. I definitely don't see that game as underrated. Sorcery Saga, I'm not a fan of that game. It's just very, very obscure. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun game. Odin Sphere, I thought it was underrated. But my problem with Odin Sphere is that it did get overly praised. It's held in such a high regard that it just felt weird picking Odin Sphere. But I agree with you. I think a lot more people should play Odin Sphere, and they just don't want to for some reason. Anyway, Muramasa got its glory on the PS Vita, but it's still kind of underrated, you're right. Mind Zero got a lot of hate, and I never finished it, so I can't talk much about it. Exist Archive, definitely, I think it's a game that it's not 100% a hidden gem anymore. People know it, but it's still there. It's still kind of obscure, and that's a great bit. Exist Archive, it's in my video, I think. Grand Kingdom, maybe. It's a grind fest. Not a lot of people will be able to get into that game. Hence the ratings it got, which weren't the best, but yeah. And the Mary Skelter games. Those are compile hard games. That's an underrated game. Mary Skelter, sure. That's an underrated game. Alright guys, moving on to the consoles no one cares about, so let's be quick with this. On the Sega Master System, I picked Golden Axe Warrior. It's a Zelda clone, but it has way more RPG elements than Zelda. You visit way more towns. The exploration is much bigger. Overall, it attempted to be a better game than Zelda, and it failed miserably. It got good reviews, but nobody knows that game. Golden Axe Warrior. It's not a beat 'em up. It's an action-adventure role-playing game. and it's arguably not an RPG. But that's my pick. The Master System is like the 64. There's barely any JRPGs in there, and the other ones are Ys, very popular game. Phantasy Star, very popular game, and what else is there? Miracle Warriors, that game fucking sucks. Anyway guys, so moving on to the Genesis, I picked Warsong. Why Warsong? Langreaser. I think it was a hidden gem back then. Nowadays I think it's more popular because of Langreaser, because of the Langreaser remasters, but still people don't appreciate this game. And they don't know Warsong is one of the most influential strategy RPGs in history. They don't know that. When you think of strategy RPGs that are influential, you think of Final Fantasy Tactics, you think of Fire Emblem, you think of Shining Force. Nobody thinks of Warsong, of Langreaser. Nobody, and it's one of the most influential. Problem is, it wasn't influential outside of Japan. It was very influential in Japan, very. And it's held in a high regard. But overseas, and that's why it's underrated. Sega CD, I had to pick a hidden gem, a very obscure game, because the other ones are very popular. I picked Dark Wizard, another strategy RPG. I don't think it's that underrated because it's a bit boring. I'll confess it's not the best strategy RPG, but it had great ideas, solid stories, decent storytelling for its time, and the campaigns, while long and with an outdated interface, they're still kind of enjoyable. It didn't age that poorly. The other games are, the Lunar games, the Shining Force games, those are the popular ones on the Sega CD, right? And if you're thinking about Pop Full Mail, let's move on. I love that fucking game, Pop Full Mail, but god damn it, man. Moving on to the Sega Saturn, every JRPG released on the Sega Saturn is underrated. The console itself is underrated. So take your pick, guys. What are the popular ones in the Sega Saturn? The popular ones: Panzer Dragoon Saga, Magic Knight Rayearth, Shining Force 3, of course. What else? Anybody? So I'm picking Dragon Force, another greatly influential strategy RPG nobody talks about. Dragon Force, amazing game. Not only in Japan games, of course. Otherwise, the list could go on. We could start getting into the Devil Summoner games, the Atlus, the Shin Megami Tensei series, but none of those came out of Japan. Anyway, moving on to the Dreamcast, I picked Evolution 1 and 2. I'm not really a fan of those games, but what else is there? Skies of Arcadia, very popular and very highly rated. Grandia 2, same case. Those two are the biggest JRPGs on the Dreamcast. Phantasy Star Online. But the others are kind of like weird and kind of bad, or mediocre. Egg. Nobody knows Egg, right? Elemental Gimme Gear. Anybody? You guys don't know that game. What else is there? Time Stalkers. It was kind of mediocre. I'm picking Evolution 1 and 2 because they, while not exactly a fan of those two games, I think they should have been more popular. And when people think of Dreamcast JRPGs, those are the ones that should be up there with Grandia and Skies of Arcadia and shit. It's my opinion though. But take that with a grain of salt from someone who's not the biggest fan of Evolution Worlds. Evolution Worlds. Anyway, I know that's the GameCube game release. Evolution 1 and 2. Evolution, the World of Sacred Device, that's the name. Game Gear, Sega's only portable system. Well, the Nomad doesn't count. For the Game Gear, I got Crystal Warriors. It didn't age well. It's not that fun to play anymore, but back then it was kind of influential. Just like Langreaser, people didn't pay attention. And you guys are not gonna believe this. Crystal Warriors is the first strategy JRPG ever released outside of Japan. And nobody fucking knows it. So that's my only reason, that's my only argument. It's not that great of a game. But what else there is on the freaking green Game Gear? I mean, Shining Force is there, probably the most popular and the only one people know. And then there's Legend of Oasis, something like that. No, it's called I forget the name. It's an okay game. Crystal Warriors is better. And finally, guys, you want to talk about the Xbox? For the Xbox original, there's barely any JRPGs in there. In fact, I don't think there's a single one released in North America. So I'm picking Blackstone. It's a Diablo Baldur's Gate clone. But the RPG elements are there. I mean, there are others, like the Sudeki and Jade Empire, but those are not Japanese role-playing games. Those are Western RPGs, I think. So a Japanese role-playing game, Blackstone. I think it's also kind of Chinese. I'm not sure. let's move on. I mean, the Xbox, who the fuck cares? Xbox 360 got a lot of JRPGs. And my pick for 360 is one that it wasn't in the on the PS3 video, but I kind of want to include it here. But I think it's gotten popular, and people are starting to respect it a little bit more. So for the 360, instead of going for Star Ocean The Last Hope, I'm gonna pick Infinite on Discovery. Because The Last Hope, like I said, it's gotten a little bit more popular. A little bit over the course of time, just not enough. But I don't think Star Ocean The Last Hope got the ratings it deserved. So it's a close tie, but Infinite on Discovery is an exclusive on the 360. Definitely didn't get the ratings it deserved. It's no masterpiece, and it's hard to get into, and it does have some balancing issues. But if you can get past that, you will encounter a great game. And it's kind of slow. So Infinite on Discovery is a game that it's gonna take people a while to love it. It's gonna take people a while to enjoy it. But man, it's a great game. You're not gonna be, oh man, masterpiece, this is one of the best in the 360. It's not, but just didn't get the ratings it deserved. Yeah, that's my pick, Infinite on Discovery. I think it's a great game that deserves a little bit more better ratings. Let's leave it at that. And for the Xbox One, because I didn't choose Valkyria Revolution on the PS4 or on the Vita, I'm gonna pick it on the Xbox One. I never played it on the Xbox One, but it's there in case you care, in case you have an Xbox One and don't have a PS4. That's weird. If you like JRPGs, why the fuck would you have an Xbox One instead of a PS4? But I respect that. Know that that game is there, and it's criminally underrated. It's a game that it just didn't get the ratings it deserved. It got trashed a lot. It's a great JRPG destroyed by critics. Check it out, guys. Valkyria Revolution is a really solid pick. It's no masterpiece. It does have some gameplay issues, but I mean, that's a fantastic game. Someone saying Ys Origin. That's a good pick too. Ys Origin needs more attention, but it's everywhere. It's on the Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Steam, Vita. It's everywhere, man. So it's everywhere for a reason. And that reason is because it's gotten more popular than it was before. Ys Origin was underrated, just not as much as it once was, in my opinion. But it's still kind of underrated. I'm sticking with Valkyria Revolution, and that's it. And if anybody cares about the TurboGrafx, I picked Dragon Slayer. That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. Dragon Slayer is actually a good game, and it didn't get the ratings it deserved. So I guess I should say, see you next time. Thanks, guys. Thanks for making this video come true. It's going to be a long one. I'm going to have to edit a lot of it, but of course I'll include a bunch of your picks, because it was supposed to be a video done by all of us. So I hope you're looking for the final cut of this underrated video. It took us over an hour to do. Man, it's gonna be a pain in the ass to edit, but we'll do this. The most underrated JRPG on every console by Erick, Landon RPG, and the fans. Yeah, that's it, guys. The video is over. Back to your goddamn questions. I was gonna do a review today, but I'm not supposed to. So yeah, I'm not supposed to. Because it's a game that hasn't come out yet. It's a remaster of a game that hasn't come out. Can you guess which game I'm talking about? While I check the messages someone sent to me, even though they know I am live. Yeah, I can't make the review. I really want to make the review today, but it's I'm not supposed to, and they're gonna be very pissed off. So we got 15 more minutes, guys. Ask your questions. No, we're still far from Atelier Marie remake. I have a situation with Koei Tecmo. They always send me games, but they did not send me a copy for Atelier Ryza 3. I think it's probably because I asked my contact at Koei Tecmo. I asked him if I could get that. This was like 5 months ago or so, last year. I told him if I could get a code for Atelier Ryza 2, because it's just freaking expensive everywhere and I can't play it. And he said, no, I don't have any more codes for that game. Okay, I didn't say anything, but on the inside I thought, how the hell am I gonna play Atelier Ryza 3? having skipped the second one. So I didn't say anything. I didn't ask for an Atelier Ryza 3 code, but I didn't get it. So maybe this guy connected the dots, right? And I didn't get it. So I don't know if I'm gonna get the Atelier Marie remake code. I'll ask for one, and if I'll get it, of course I'll play it and review it. Front Mission 2, no, it's not out yet. It's a game that's going to be released in less than 2 weeks. Now, you're not gonna guess it because it's such an obscure game, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna go under a lot of people's radars. And it's not an RPG. It has some RPG. I'll give you a hint. It has RPG elements, but it's not really an RPG. And it featured in my compilation of hidden gems that I did like 6 days ago. The massive hidden gems. It's not an RPG, but it does have RPG elements. That's what I'm gonna say. But I can't review it right now because if the company finds out, do you consider other Yakuza games as action JRPGs? I don't know because I've never played them. I only played the first one on the PlayStation 2 a long time ago, and it didn't feel like an RPG to me. But I can't answer that question. I need to play the other modern ones, more modern ones. For example, you got Judgment and Lost Judgment. They're Yakuza spin-offs, and they're very good. And they have strong RPG elements. They don't feel like RPGs to me, but if someone were to say they are action RPGs, I wouldn't argue. What game you are interested in getting releasing next month? Fuga Melodies of Steel 2. It's getting released on April, I think. Or is it on May? Fuck. I don't remember. Aren't we getting next month the Mega Man Battle Network Collection and the Advance Wars remasters, right? I'm not really interested in those, but if I can get my hands on them, I'll give them a try. Yggdra Union came only on Steam. It was released on the Switch, but only in Japan. Why? Why didn't we get the Switch version of Yggdra Union and its sequel only on Steam? Are you kidding me? Who published those games in... I mean, what the Do you still write books? Yes, I do. You can find all of my books in the description of this video, and I just released the translation to English to a new one, not to an old one from 9 years ago. Do you have a Steam account? No, I don't play on Steam. I have nothing against Steam. I don't play on Steam because I'm a console guy. I enjoy sitting on a couch and playing on my TV. And I know I can plug in my laptop to my TV and play Steam games in there, but I have a huge backlog, man. A huge console backlog. And I'd rather focus on that because if I start playing games on Steam, I'm gonna go into a rabbit hole and never come back. What are you gonna do in Semana Santa? Nothing. I hope all of my neighbors go away to vacation and I can just do whatever I want. This is a good neighborhood so far. We have a neighborhood with really annoying dogs, like 3 houses away from here. Man, I hope that person goes away. Anyway, Lost Judgment, that's an amazing game. Have you played Yakuza 0? Nope. What do you think of Fire Emblem Engage? I haven't played it. Chances are I won't be playing Fire Emblem Engage until probably next year when it's like $40. Right? I'm not paying $60 for that game because it just doesn't look like something I'll enjoy, even though I'm a die-hard Fire Emblem fan. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait, man. I'm in no hurry to play Fire Emblem Engage. The Stranger of Paradise Steam port? No. Advance Wars Remaster? No. Forget about the game that I was going to review today and I didn't. You guys will never guess it. Hyped for Baten Kaitos Remaster on Switch? Yes, I am. Bandai Namco never gives me codes. But if I see the game for like $10 or $20, I'll probably get them. Especially if they come together. I don't know about you guys, but I'm of the mentality that paying more than $20 US dollars for a digital game is fucking insane. It's just fucking insane, man. It's a lot of money for something you don't really own. But if I can get Bats and Kaitos 1 and 2 for $20, both of them for that price, I'll get them and review them. Because Namco never sends codes to me. Can you flex your Nintendo Switch right now? Flex? Flex? What do you mean flex? The rabbit hole will be worth it. I'm fine with my consoles, that's a much better rabbit hole for me. What's your opinion on the SNES game Soul Blazer? I think it's a great game, another underrated game, underrated action RPG. It's a bit dated, didn't age that well, but it aged okay, didn't age bad. I never finished it. I think it's a solid game, overlooked. When do you think we will get Dragon Quest 12? I'm thinking next year, because Square Enix right now is going to publish Final Fantasy 16, and they will be fucking stupid to publish Dragon Quest 12. It will only create more competition. Those games will clash. You know, they don't need that right now. So I think Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 are the big ones this year, where we will probably get Dragon Quest 12 next year. I really believe that. I could be wrong though, I'm just speculating. Why do you think Ys 9 doesn't get as much hype as Ys 8? Ys 9 had two problems. I love the fucking game and I like it better than Ys 8, but it had two problems. One is that it used the exact same graphics from Ys 8 and it didn't improve them. And second, the Switch version got a lot of hate because it has a lot of resolution issues. You fight battles and whatnot and it's on 720p and at 30 frames per second. So it was kind of a disappointing version. PS4 version got better reviews, but I think that what happened is that Ys 8 was such a fantastic, overly praised game, so a lot of people, reviewers and influencers were thinking, what can surpass Ys 8 at this point? What? What the hell is Falcom gonna do? So they released Ys 9 and it just didn't meet a lot of people's expectations. But it did get decent reviews, positive reviews. It was praised. But the graphics for a game that... I mean, Ys 8 had beautiful graphics. So, graphically speaking, Ys 9 should have had better graphics, right? And it just didn't. But that's it, man. Ys 9 is a masterpiece, in my opinion. The best JRPG on the Switch and PS4, probably. Or one of the best. There's still the possibility of Final Fantasy IX remake. Good, I'm not interested because they're gonna turn into a fucking hack and slash. Do you think Fire Emblem Thracia 776 needs a remake or genealogy of Holy War? My man, my dude, yes, I think so. I think they definitely need a remake. Especially Thracia because it's such a freaking broken ass game. And those people need to know about those games. They are really, really good Fire Emblem games, man. They definitely need a remaster or a remake or whatever. They need to come out to North America. So is Ys 9 potentially underrated? Guess what? That was my original pick on the PS4. 5 minutes before starting this video, I changed my mind to the Diofield Chronicle. And then I changed the Diofield Chronicle on the Switch and decided for Soul Hackers 2. Because Ys 9 did get positive ratings, believe it or not. Despite the graphical issues, it did get a lot of positive ratings. Soul Hackers 2 and Diofield Chronicle got less positive ratings, more negative ratings. So I went with those. But Ys 9 was originally my pick for the video. And what was your pick for the Nintendo DS? That was Suikoden Tear Cries, the Suikoden game that nobody cared for. That one. What the hell's wrong with the music? Oh, this is the Resident Evil music from last week. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway. Yeah, you can barely hear it. Let's move on. Oh! This is from Namco Cross Capcom. Plus, Ys 9 is on PS5 now. See, it got popular. It got some good ratings. Otherwise, they never would have ported that game to anywhere. Oof. Damn, guys. I need to go. You know, guys, before you guys leave, I just want to really... I don't want to get cheesy or anything, but I really anticipate these Q&As. I'm really looking forward to them every week. In fact, if I I wish I could do them more often every Sunday, but they will get repetitive, and I think a lot of people wouldn't join. So every 2 Sundays is better. I'm gonna stick to that. But I just want to thank you guys for joining here and for being fans of this channel. It's just it means a lot to me, and I look forward to these Q&As. You know, they're part of my social life. I don't have much of a social life. I only have a couple of friends in real life, and I rarely see them. And this is part of my highlight of every day. I think of it, I plan these Q&As, and I'm always looking forward to them. And I just want to thank you for being here, for participating, for asking questions, for hanging out, for using your time to be here for 10 minutes or 1 hour, or hell, both hours, entire hours, and spending time with me. You know, I really appreciate that, guys. And I also really appreciate that you're still fans of this channel, and you still enjoy the content that I do. Still trying my best, coming up with new ideas and trying to improve the content. So just thank you guys. It means a hell of a lot to me. So that's it, guys. Thanks a bunch for watching. This was another goddamn Q&A edition, and I will see you guys in 15 days. I hope you enjoyed the video, the most underrated JRPG of every console. And I'll definitely upload it soon, maybe in a couple of weeks, but it'll be there. I still have to make a decision if I'm gonna upload it on my main channel or my second channel. If you didn't know that I had a second channel, it's on the description. And subscribing there, I upload a lot of clips and old live streams, but I also upload new content every now and then. That's not really true, but I haven't decided what I'm gonna do with this video, but it'll be there. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. See you next time.